someone's in their 20s right now or in their 30s and they're like, I want to be a baby steps millionaire. I don't want to walk through the 7 steps because I know they're beautifully laid out in the book. What are some of the first things that they need to start thinking about, Dave?
Let's go back to it and say out loud, the tech person or whatever, the stuff we're teaching will not make you a billionaire. It won't do it. Mathematically, it won't. These were millionaires, $1 to $10 million worth of net worth. Okay, and so that's a lot of money, but it's not a billion. These people don't have private jets. They don't have 6 houses. They don't have a Lamborghini. Those are billionaires that have that. And a lot of those are people that are household names, the Gates or the Buffetts or the whatever, that kind of thing. But that's a different world. In this world, the way to get the first 1 to 10 million ends up being 80% of them, a little about 83% of them, had 2 things that showed up almost every time. Number 1, they funded their 401k in good mutual funds and their Roth IRAs in good mutual funds over an extended period of time, 12 to 17 years. That's not that long, but that was long. It's longer than 5 minutes, and it's not get rich quick. It's the tortoise, not the hare. So 12 to 17 years. During that time, the average millionaire paid off their home in 10.2 years. And so what we've got is, we've got a guy or a gal that's got $1.5 million net worth, and in there is a $500,000 paid for home and $1 million in their retirement accounts. And that's almost all. It was those 2 things, the power of compound interest, building up your mutual funds, winning in your 401k, and just steady, never stopping, never panicking when the market's down, just steady. Just keep doing it, it's boring. It's not sexy at all. You're not gonna be on the cover of Fast Company magazine, paying off your mortgage. Nobody knows you did it. It's just kind of, but here you sitting with a paid for house and $1 million, I think you're gonna be okay. So that's what most of them did. A few of them were farm millionaires, large enough to mention here, meaning that they, not inherited, but they were a farmer that bought land, and then they bought more land, and then they bought more land, and that land in and of itself became worth over $1 million. That wasn't that unusual. We saw several of those as well. But what we discovered was process people are the ones that did this, whether they were baby steps millionaires or just millionaires. And so the number 1 career was engineer. Number 2 was accountant. Number 3 was teacher. Number 4 was an executive, and number 5 was a lawyer. MDs didn't even make the top 5. Medical doctors made number 6. And now, if you count even the MDs, if you count every one of those, okay, engineer, accountant, teacher, executive, and lawyer, every one of those are systems people. They believe in a set of principles, and when you follow those principles, you get a result. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. If you plant corn, don't be shocked corn comes up. In every one of those, it's a cause and effect world that they live in. They believe in systems, they believe in processes, figure out the system, work the system. You build a bridge this way, it stays up. You do a lesson plan this way, the student learns. Every one of, you follow a set of decorum and laws and processes in court, or the judge puts you in jail for contempt. You have to. And so all of these are process people, so it turns out it's a process.
You spoke about something really brilliant. It's not sexy, it's not quick, and it's not what it looks like on Instagram, on social media, in the pictures. I feel like half the battle is building that discipline muscle, that habit, that pattern of consistent focus. What is taking us away from that? How do we build that muscle? Because it sounds like to me that that's what's blocking us. We want it to be sexy, we want it to be fast, we want it to look a certain way, and you're like, wait, it doesn't look like that at all.
I think it's disturbing. The wonderful things about social media are obvious. The wonderful things about the internet are obvious. We're able to do this interview this way. It's obvious that it's a fabulous convenience and everything. The downside is that we're creating generations now, even up into my old generation, of people who have the attention span of a gnat. I mean, they can't stick with anything. And in order to do something of greatness, it requires a steady application over a period of time. The old days of a craftsman going through years of apprenticeship in order to be world class at something. Now we want to just snap our fingers and instantaneously be able to do this because we carry this magic wand around in our hand that if we push a button, stuff shows up on our porch. I mean, it's magic. And anything we want, you can get anything you want on this thing very, very quickly. You can't even have a good argument because you can get the answer to the problem at there. And you know, we used to sit around and have fights at dinner and our family and argue about whether somebody was right or not. Now somebody goes and looks on the internet and finds the answer. And well, George is just wrong, Henry's right, you know, and it's just, so this attention span thing is a problem. And really what that is underneath, without shaming someone or trying to shame a whole generation, I'm not doing that, because there's people within each generation that don't do this or that break free from it, it's emotional maturity. The ability to delay pleasure is a sign of maturity. That's what grown-ups do. Children do what feels good. YOLO. You only live once, quick. Instead of like, I'm gonna sacrifice to get a greater outcome. I'm going to live like no one else so that later I can live and give like no one else. I've got to have the moment at this moment. That is a childish expression of any area of your life. It will destroy your marriage. It will raise horrible children. You know, it'll mess up your career, and it certainly will mess up your money. Short-term thinking. The get rich quick has never worked at any time in the world as an ongoing, provable, sustainable process. It's always, and that's where the tortoise and the hare, Aesop's fable comes from, right? And so we got to stick with this idea, and that even includes our generosity. You know, we were starting to talk about generosity, and the generosity with these folks, with these millionaires that we studied, is a steady thing, like their savings is a steady thing. They're not trying to have this one big event that says, look at me, how generous I am. Instead, they're fairly quiet about it, almost absurdly quiet and anonymous about it, and they steadily give in to something that they believe in. If they're a Christian, they're going and giving a tithe at their local church. If they're Jewish, they might also be tithing at their synagogue. You know, regardless of your faith background, there's not a religious background on the planet that does not have a steady giving rhythm as a part of its teaching. Every one of them do, because it's how you build character. And when you're giving, it's almost impossible to not become grateful. And as you become grateful, the next thing that happens is you become more and more content. And the more content you are in a totally discontented culture, the great advantage you have to build wealth.